Hi, welcome to the Electro Revolution channel. Now, this is the BYD Atto 2. I'm taking it on a test drive. Now, we've originally and previously gone through the internal and external of the vehicle. We've done that at the EV Show in Melbourne, and if you haven't watched that, you can watch it in episode 3, which I'll pop onto the screen when it becomes available. So anyway, for today, we're going to take it for a test drive. We're going to look at the handling, we're going to look at the steering, the different modes of operations from economy, normal and sports mode. And I think this has another mode, but we'll give our opinions based on that. So firstly, initially in my initial opinion sitting in it, it resembles a BYD Atto 3. Like the seats are, quite comfortable. It does have ventilated seat. It's quite a hot day today, over 30 degrees Celsius. And yeah, it does remind me of a BYD Atto 3, except of course the Atto 3 has a more ocean interior, where this one is more practical in terms of the way the vehicle looks. So again, I've gone through the internals. You've got a instrument cluster right in the front here. It looks like a 7-inch. And you've got the display here, which is rotating. At the moment, this is Apple CarPlay. So this is where we're located. We don't have to, of course, use Apple CarPlay. This shows the latest OTA update that's available for this particular vehicle, and I'm sure they'll roll it out eventually in Australia for the older vehicles. Now, of course, we've got, that one, we can control the temperature through there. So also you can do that. There's fan speed there, and this is actually something I like because it resembles the Atto 3, where you can control the temperature on this side and the fan speed on that one, on that side. Now you can't do that with the Seal. In the Seal, you've got both the temperature control here and the temperature control here. So the only thing you can do is the left and right and up and down. So if you know that about BYD, you can control the speed of the fan and so forth through there. Now, it does have all the applications sitting on the bottom here. A lot of this is screen real estate, which is not actually used. So they keep the look and feel of the new OS to just give it a better look. But, nevertheless, you can't actually use what's on screen in this particular version. So one of the important things to understand about this particular vehicle is there's no actual gear stick. So the gears are actually located here on the right hand side, where we've got reverse, the neutral position. At the moment it's in park, but you can do the neutral by pressing once, I think. Okay, I don't know how to do that, but that's okay. Reverse is all the way up, we can see onto the screen there. Drive is all the way down, and park is pressing the button there. And that's similar to other vehicles that have this particular style of gear controls. We've got the blinker on the left stalk, so of course right, left, and so forth. So yeah, let's go for a drive and let's comment on how the drive is. Now it's currently on normal, so I will test it on economy and on sport. So I've got to get used to the left hand. Actually, I might go this way. We're in an industrial area, and it's on a Sunday, so we shouldn't have too many interferences from different vehicles. Now I do notice straight away the suspension. It's quite a soft suspension. I can feel how it absorbs the bumps on the road, both in and out. I'll just adjust the seat a little bit, and now we can do the full round rotation all the way. Yes, as I expect with BYDs, they've got a tight turning circle, and that's actually a good thing. So let's just look at the acceleration here from normal. Okay, it's actually pretty good. I do notice when I accelerate, there's a time in reaction to the acceleration, so it doesn't happen instantly. So let's try, for now, let's try the sports mode on this car. I'll do a UE here and do the same thing. I'll just go around here, give me an opportunity. Okay, now if you come down here, this is the actual lever to change from the different modes of the vehicle. So if I press down, look on the instrument display, it shows there Sport with a red bar. If I keep pressing it, you've got Eco, Normal, Sport and Snowfield. I'm not sure exactly what Snowfield would do, but let's go to Sport. And that's it, it gives me the red bar to show that it's going to be in sports mode and using the most battery as possible. So now I'll just release the brake and I'll accelerate. Okay. Okay, so that is a dramatic difference compared to the normal mode of driving. And one thing I did notice from a standstill on a flat road is it had a touch of over acceleration, right? So the torque is quite high, considering that the vehicle likely doesn't have too much downforce. So yeah, I mean, end of the day, it's good. And I can feel the accelerator much more responsive. So for those that kind of enjoy this type of ride, that would suit them more. I'm more of a normal and economy driver, especially when vehicle I'm driving long distance. But we can see here, I accelerate further. Yeah, look, it does accelerate, but I find when I really floor it on that acceleration component, it seems like the car's going to lose grip on the road. Just slightly, it seems that way, but it doesn't. So I guess that's a good thing, especially if they've got traction control enabled in this particular vehicle. So that's the first thing I noticed with the acceleration and the braking system. The braking system's actually no problem. No dramas at all with the braking system. Yeah, so I might turn it off sports mode because it's quite reactive. Let's go to normal. And yeah, I mean, the braking system is actually quite good. Okay, now I do notice another thing that's quite nice is it's quiet. It's actually very quiet. I don't hear much road noise. Now I am, of course, in an industrial area, which allows me to actually hear the vehicle. Again, the bumps are absorbed through the suspension system. Quite good. Okay. Now, as far as I know, this vehicle also has the automatic cruise controls and things like that. So let me try and enable that. Okay, I don't want to go back onto the main road actually. So let me just reverse from here. I just want to stay in the industrial area for now. So yeah, turning left and right, it's quite responsive and a smooth ride overall. Now, this version of the BYD is the premium version, and the difference between the Essentials and the Premium is not only the 17-inch rims from a 16, but also the 360-degree camera view. So I'll turn around. This is a tight road, and you can get used to the gear stick on the steering. It's actually quite easy to control using the right hand. Another thing I notice of the vehicle, because I'm used to driving a sedan, it's quite high off the road. And that's quite impressive for me because it's something I'm not totally used to. And in my seating position, I can easily see the front of the road. So sometimes I would say the bonnet takes a lot of the space between my vision of view of the road. It covers a lot of the front of the vehicle, where this particular one doesn't necessarily do that. And now I'm back onto the main road. Now I will say something also about the air conditioning. As I mentioned, it's 31 degrees Celsius today. And the air conditioning seems to be keeping up. So it has been on for about 20 minutes now, and I can feel the coolness of the air conditioning. Now it is all manually controlled. If you look down here, it's all manually controlled. And you know, I don't really mind the manual controls at all. You know, the BYD Atto 3 has it, but the seal is all automated through the screen. So you can have smart modes and things like that on it, which it takes some getting used to. But manual controls, are absolutely nothing wrong with them. So far, I would say it's quite a good and reasonable drive. You know, it does have, I can see high regenerative braking mode set on, but I actually can't notice it. So that's a good thing. When I take my foot off the accelerator, I can see it's showing -8 kilowatts, which is the energy back in from the downhill motion of the vehicle. But there's not that jerkiness that I would typically be accustomed to in a vehicle like this with high regenerative mode. So it's actually quite good. Let's go around the roundabout. Now, it does show the speed limit of this particular road is 50, flashing on the instrument display, and because I went just a little bit faster than 50, I went to 60, it did beep at me, which is exactly what I expect on a vehicle like this, because it's a soft beep. It's not something that is telling me, okay, you know, here's something that's annoying you, slow down. No, it's actually not an annoyance, and I'm actually quite used to this from my other BYD vehicles. And that's what you want, something that's not very intrusive, just to remind you, hey, you've accelerated just a little bit more than what the road should be on. And I'm doing that again now. Now, this is a 60 zone, it's not a 50 zone, but because it's recorded on 50, it needs the street sign recognition. So once the street sign will show on the side of the road, I'm sure this will pick it up, and I'll notify if it doesn't. So here's a street sign coming that says 60, and I'm looking at the instrument display also. It's currently on 50. Now, as I pass it right now, bang, 60. So the street sign recognition works. And now it shouldn't be beeping at me for going at 60 in a 60 zone while the car is set on 50. Okay, so now I'm driving back to the dealership. Now, I would say one thing, because it is a hot day and you know, it's easy to sweat in a vehicle on a day like this, I enabled also the seating ventilation. Now, I still feel I'm sweating a little bit. Like, it's not as strong as I would expect. Like, I can feel the coolness in the driver's seat, and it also has passenger seat cooling, but I wouldn't say it's actually very strong. I can feel it, but not as strong as I'd like. I'd like actually a little bit more ventilation. Now, I know with the seal I have, it's got two modes. It's got low fan and high fan. And on a day like this, I would put it on a high fan. So yeah, and I definitely feel it in the seal. Like, you know, there's no chance of sweating when I've got it on high in the seal. But on a day like this, we're still sitting on 31 degrees Celsius, which is quite hot. I mean, the cabin temperature is fine. I can't see what the cabin temperature is internally here, but yeah, the cabin temperature is fine. It doesn't have, you know, all of the vents I would personally like, because as I said, with the seal, for example, it's got vents right in the middle. So I'll feel the vent both on the right hand and on the left hand steering. Where this vehicle has on the right hand the vent, and then right in the middle the vent. So maybe I could put this up to control it maybe a little bit in my direction, and it's got the far left one. So yeah, that's actually a little bit better doing it that way. Yeah, I can actually feel it a lot more now from the center console. Now as we come back into the dealership, we're just going to quickly do a recording of the external of the vehicle and maybe pop the boot so we can look at what's in the boot. Like in the previous Melbourne EV show, I don't think we really had a good look at the boot, so we'll do this right here. And as you can imagine, at a BYD dealer, you've got BYDs all over the place, and that's actually good to see. And if we look here at the rear view camera, you'll find, as you expect with actually all BYDs, the clarity of the camera is fantastic. Very, very high resolution. Now I'll put it into this middle one. It makes it easy to navigate, doesn't it? Look at that. Now I'll align it. And there we are. And pop it into park by pressing the button. And now we'll just do a quick overview of the outside, and also, as I mentioned, we'll pop the boot. Now this is the outside of the vehicle, showing BYD Liverpool, BYD Atto 2 Liverpool. Look, as I mentioned before, it actually does look good in black, but black vehicles also come with their own issues, like fingerprints on the vehicle and also absorption of sunlight, which really heats up the body. Now we'll take a look at the boot. Okay, it's not an automatic boot, it's a manual, but look how clean that looks. Now you've got some space here. I like side spaces because you can put all sorts of things in there, like additional battery packs or water bottles or something like that. So if you do go on long journeys, you can really use these items on the side. Now this I'm accustomed to from other vehicles I've driven in my past. Easy to unclip and easy to clip, so that's not a problem either. Now you do need this to protect anything that you carry in the luggage space from the sun. So if we just open here, look, that's a lot of space, and technically speaking this is actually on this panel here, but if we were to remove that, I'm sure what we could do is lower this to give much more room in the actual boot. So if it had a frunk, I could install this additional cable that you get. It's most probably a vehicle to load cable. But if you needed that trunk space, it wouldn't be a problem to do that. And that's the tyre repair kit. And always with these tyre repair kits, for long journeys, they're great to have. But if you're locally around, you've got essentially road service that's added to these particular vehicles, you can actually take this out and use the space that this occupies. And if you don't know about these things, this actually is a tyre pump, right? You can use it as is as a tyre pump, but in addition to that, if you've had a flat, you can actually use this to pump the foam into the flat. Now I have had to use that in the past, but even just as a unit like this, all you have to do is plug it in to the 12-volt socket there into the car, and you can pump up your tyres without needing to go to a service station. So I find that quite useful. And here they've got reflective vest, they've got a tow bar. This is for the covers for the nuts around your wheels, and other things in there. So overall, good storage space. I'll pop it up onto the screen the actual volume. Now if we were to need more, we could actually pop these seats down like so. And if you do have a bike or a surfboard or a boogie board, you could easily just take this off like that. Nice and easy, keep that home. And there's a lot of actual boot space if you do need to carry those larger loads. So far so good overall with this particular vehicle. So we'll close this, and on the other side, okay, now to sit in it, I gotta admit, this is a wonderful back seat. Look, I've got so much leg room, I've got so much height in the roof, and you know, if we look up here, this is where there's the actual sunshade where you can control it from the front, just behind the mirror or just in front of the rear view mirror. But nevertheless, this is actually quite roomy. And if you look here, we're accustomed always to cup holders here for, you know, the passengers in the back, usually our kids, but of course other passengers. So to sit in the middle seat, yeah, there's no actual hard cushioning here at all. It's actually quite soft, so it'll be comfortable for a third person in the back seat. Although I wouldn't say there's a huge amount of room for that third person, but nevertheless you can sit quite comfortably, because it's not like some vehicles, they actually have this middle section hard, so it's not as comfortable as a soft seat. So yeah, that's what we've got. Now I'll just see if it's got one more feature which I like about vehicles, and that's, notice I've left the vehicle on and I've shut the door. So this is the lock here. I'm hoping when I lock it, it actually turns off the unit, which it doesn't do. So let's try unlocking, getting inside the vehicle and actually turning it off, which is this start and stop here, turns the vehicle off. Now we can close the door and actually lock it like that, and folding the mirrors. So that was the test drive of the BYD Atto 2. Now I only did that test drive a couple of weeks ago, but of course with all the other videos that I do, they do take time, so it took time to release this particular one. But notice one thing, that there was a difference between the Atto 2 that was on display at the EV show in Melbourne and this one, and the primary difference was it had a rotating screen on the show, and the one that actually went for sale in Australia doesn't have a rotating screen, and I verified that with research. So nevertheless, overall it was a good vehicle. Now I did go into this vehicle not just to test drive it and do the review, but also with a idea to actually purchase it, because if you've been watching my videos now for a few months, you'd know I want to replace the ICE vehicle that I have, the third vehicle. I want to replace it with a BEV. Now I am in the market for that. Now the things I'm considering, of course, is the BYD Atto 2, the BYD Atto 1, the BYD C-Lines, maybe one of those, or some different models. Like I did a video earlier on the Geely EX2, which is soon to be released in Australia and will very likely be the cheapest BEV in Australia. So I will be looking at that next year. I believe in February 2026. Now, you remember it is the #1 selling car in China right at this moment. So it is a pretty good vehicle and a pretty popular vehicle. So I hope when it does come out to Australia that they give it some really good spec and things like that, so it could impress people that want to buy these particular types of vehicles. So in terms of the BYD Atto 2, now I did come into it not just to review, as I said, but to actually purchase the vehicle. Unfortunately, it's not something I would actually purchase, and the primary reason for that is the blinker and the gear stick. Now, as you'd know, I own both a BYD Atto 3 and a BYD Seal. Both of them have the blinker on the right hand side and the gear stick in the middle. And of course, you've got the wipers on the left hand stalk. Now, that would just be to avoid confusion. If I was, take for example, if I was to purchase this vehicle and I'm jumping around in different vehicles and different cars, I would get actually mixed up and confused. Now, I have done this before because I've had a BMW, for example. It had the blinker on the left hand side. It's something you can easily get used to. However, I also had a Nissan Dualis at that time, which they now call a Qashqai. And when I used to drive the Dualis, it had the blinker on the right side. When I used to drive the BMW, it had the blinker on the left side. And sometimes I'd be doing my wipers because of the confusion. So I really don't want to revisit that time. So unfortunately, if BYD actually had the gear stick in the middle and the blinker on the right, I would seriously consider buying the vehicle. Otherwise, I am going to have to look for something that, you know, suits my family and suits me. So the next one, of course, was the Leapmotor B10, where I did test drive the C10, but I know with the B10, because we went through it in the Melbourne EV Show, it also has the gear stick on the right hand side and the blinker on the left hand side. So for the same reason, I won't be able to also look at getting a car like that, although I really like that car too. So hopefully I will be test driving the B10 at some stage, and I will make a video on that. Nevertheless, if you really liked this video, and I hope you did, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this content with someone who'd be interested, or just leave a comment. It really all helps. And until the next episode, I hope to see you there. Bye for now.